So in a few days, it will be 6 years since I walked away from a 30-year corporate career. When I walked away, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no game plan. I had no plan, game or not. I had no strategy. I had what I realized now was an inkling of a dream, an inkling of a goal, an inkling of a life that I desire to live. Even though at the time I couldn't describe it. I couldn't put words to it. I'm not sure if I could even put thoughts to it, but I knew it was there. Over the last 6 years, I've gone on to build a speaking and coaching career business where I take women around the world on retreats. I run workshops, I run seminars, I do coaching programs, VIP coaching programs, one-on-one packages. So I'm sharing the journey for you if you are in a season of your life where you are transitioning. Maybe like me, you've had a long-term career, corporate or otherwise. Maybe you run your own business, your family business. Maybe you've been a stay-at-home mother. Your kids have now grown, they've left home. Maybe, maybe you're moving country, you're moving to live in a different country. Maybe even you're starting over after bereavement or after divorce. However you come to this junction, you are at a junction where you are wondering what's next for you. And something tells you that there's so much more than you have allowed yourself to experience, that you have been. Something tells you that there's more. What that more is, maybe like me, you can't quite put your finger on, but you know that there's something. And you're not willing to go out like that. You're like, no, I know there's something else. I don't know what it is. Or maybe you can describe what it is. Maybe you know what it is, but you haven't started it yet. If that's you, then I invite you to follow along, join me on this journey, because over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be sharing in quite a bit of detail my journey from walking out of that meeting on the 29th of January 2020 to where we are now, 6 years on. So, welcome. So, what happened when I walked out? First of all, let me explain. I was in a meeting at work. The meeting started off all right. I was there to give an update to a senior business leader. There were 6 other colleagues present. And when I shared my update, everything crashed. Let's just say everything crashed and burned. There was an outburst from the senior business leader who let me know in no uncertain words how useless he thought I was and my team was. That's not the purpose of this video. In a later video, I will share in detail. Actually, I've done it already in a previous video, and I will do it again in a later video. But today, I want to share what actually happened after I walked out of that room. Because as he started to shout at me, as he raised his voice, as he told me how useless I was, as he told me how useless my team was, all I know was that at one point my hand started to shake as he said, he said, I want an answer and I want an answer now. And I can't wait any longer. And you and your team are useless. And I remember at that point, my hand started to shake and I had to hold on to the edges of the table to steady myself. And on he went. And at one point, my mouth opened. I couldn't have trusted what would come out of it. But just so suddenly, my mouth closed again. As I looked out of the window of this small meeting room that I was in, the walls vibrating, the room shaking, and beads of sweat were dripping down my face. And I remember I looked out of the window of this small meeting room, and I saw I saw my 30-year corporate career flash before my eyes. I saw my promotions, I saw my benefits, I saw my bonuses, I saw my colleagues that I loved, I saw the different companies I'd worked for. And then, and then from the other side of my of my of my face, I saw I saw the tears that I had been crying. I saw the angst. I saw the anguish. I saw the unhappiness. I saw every negative emotion that I had gone through, including guilt for feeling ungrateful for wanting more. And my mouth closed, and there were two very, very, very quiet words that came to my head as my mouth closed. And those two words were, not today. And all I remember was pushing back my chair, gathering my stuff, gathering myself, and walking away. Now, you may be wondering, well, what do you mean you walked away? You walked away from what? From the meeting? From the room? No, I mean, I walked away, yes, from the meeting, yes, from the room, yes, from the building. I also mean that I walked away from a 30-year career that no longer served me. But what was I walking to? I had no idea. I had no idea what I was walking to because it wasn't planned. Now, what I didn't say is that the day I walked away, it would have been my mom's birthday, and my mom had passed 2 years before. I remain convinced, I remain convinced that my mom was smiling down on me on that day. Now, I don't know if it's because it would have been her birthday. Maybe I was feeling a little bit raw, a little bit tender, and that's why I did what I did. I don't know that I would have dared to do it on a normal day. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? All I know is it happened. I left, I walked away, and I went home and I went to bed. I was in bed for 3 days. I spoke to nobody. Well, let me say that properly. I didn't speak to anybody. And a few days later, let me say the reason I didn't speak to anybody was because and I'm going to be totally honest, transparent and yeah, transparent is the word. I didn't want the voice of reason. I didn't want to be reasonable. I didn't want to be reasonable. I didn't want. I wanted to. I wanted to hear, not from my head, but from my heart, from my soul. I wanted to hear from deep within me. I didn't want analysis. I didn't want evaluation. I didn't want logic. I didn't want A plus B must equal C. I didn't want any of that. I wanted, but how do I feel? Where's that feeling coming from? What's that feeling saying? And what's that feeling taking me to? I'm not saying that was right, and I'm not saying that was wrong. I'm saying that that was what I wanted. And so that's what I did. Anyhow, first of all, so let's pause for a second and let me ask you, does any of this relate? I'd love to know. I'd love to know in the comment section Let me know if any of this relates. Let me know. Now, let me be clear though. I'm not advising anybody to walk away from a job, from a career, from your source of livelihood. I am not promoting that in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply sharing my story. Maybe you haven't walked away from a job, but maybe you are in a season of transition where you know it's time to walk away from something and walk to something. So then a week later, so remember this was, I walked away on the 29th of January 2020. We were in the throes of a possible global pandemic. We didn't quite know, at least I didn't know what was to come, what was to come. As it turned out, as it turned out, that season served me well. That season served me well because it allowed me a lot of thinking time and space. But before I jump to that, because that didn't happen until March, before I jump to that, let me say between January and March, I didn't really think about my career. I didn't think about my job because there was every day there was more and more news about the global pandemic, and it was coming. Was it coming this way? We weren't sure because it wasn't quite in the UK. I live in the UK. I live in London. It wasn't quite here. It was still in Asia. It was spreading in Asia, but wasn't quite here. And we weren't sure how it would affect us. And then there was talk about global travel, non-global travel, all of this kind of uncertainty and angst. And so for the month of February, that was all I was consuming, just global pandemic stuff, if you like. And then it was in March that we realized that this thing was becoming serious. And I have two sons. My youngest son, who was at the time, he's 27 now. So 5 years ago, he would have been 22, would have just turned 22. He was he was in his final year, what's in the US is called his senior year. He was in his senior year at university in the US, in New York, to be specific. And so then the concern was about, well, what happens to him? Is he safe? And then Columbia University decided that they were going to move to online classes. So then the focus was get him out of there. And also, President Trump was threatening to shut down the US borders. So I say all this to say, so then my focus was diverted to getting my son home safely. So in March, I don't know exactly when in March, I think it was something like the 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day, I think. No, St. Patrick's Day was the day I think the US borders were going to be shut down. I forget the specific dates. But anyhow, he came home sometime in the second week of March, and that was when the whole world shut down. The whole world shut down. And so that allowed me a lot of thinking time. And I was listening to podcasts. I listened a lot to Jay Shetty. I don't know if you know Jay Shetty. I listened to Steve Harvey. I was listening to podcasts and watching lots of YouTube videos to keep myself busy, spiritually busy, emotionally busy, but also I realize now that that was the voice from within starting to direct me to things that they say that the world is your mirror. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this in future videos, but I strongly believe that the world is your mirror. And by me watching Jay Shetty, Mary Morrissey, I think was Les Brown, Steve Harvey, I was starting to see in them what I have in me. So maybe that's actually the main point of this video. That if you're in a season of transition and you're wondering what's next for you, what do you want? One way is to investigate what you love, and specifically who you love, because the world is your mirror. And what you see and love in others is often what's in you that's itching to be birthed. But of course, I didn't know this at the time. So as I was listening to these podcasts, some questions were being thrown at me. So basically, I was listening to personal development or self-development podcasts, reading books. Some questions were thrown at me, and I'd love to share some with you because in the hope that they may help you. The first one was, who am I? Who am I? So no immediate answers, no judgment, no pre-planning, just investigation. Who am I? What do I love? What do I not love so much? Who do I admire? Why do I admire them? Who do I not admire? The world is your mirror. And what you don't admire in others is often. But I digress. This one I particularly love. What is my mandate on earth? What is my mandate on earth? What do I want to say? Who do I want to say it to? Why do I want to say it to them? What's my gift? Or what are my gifts? Because when you find your gift, I believe that it then becomes your responsibility to share it with the world. And I'd like to share with you some of the things that I wrote down in response, my answers to these questions. Because I wrote these in 2020. 2020. And a lot of this stuff have come to pass in my life right now, 6 years later. So I hope it's okay if I share some of my responses with you. The first one is, and this was in no particular order, this was in response to no particular question. This was just me, was like a dump of my responses to those questions that I just read out. Travel, coaching, empowering women, helping people achieve their goals and live a happier life, enjoying everyday life, travel, twice. It was so good I wrote it twice. Relationships, raising children, daily motivation, help people live happier, fulfilled lives and understand the power they have within them. YouTube channel. In January, by this time it was March, in March 2020, YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know. And this is just page 1. Those are the questions. These are my responses. Just page 1 of my journal from March 2020, which would have been about 2 months, 6 weeks to 2 months since I walked away from a 30-year corporate career. But like I said at the start of this video, I'll be sharing the journey. We're only in We're only, what, 2 months later. I'm going to share the journey with you. I'd love to know, I'd love to have you on board with me on this journey. I'd love to know which part or parts of what I share resonate with you, if any at all. I'd love to know your experience, your thoughts, your insights, your reflections, your comments, your questions on anything I share, or indeed on anything that you're experiencing that is similar to my experience. So I look forward to partnering with you. I look forward to getting to know you on this journey. And I can't wait for the next video. Take care and bye for now. Bye-bye.